Hello, and welcome to Here's the Thing with Robbie and Jose, where we explore relationships through a male and female perspective. With me, as always, is the lovely Robbie.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Glad to see that smile on your face.
Have you seen my new enamel pin?
I have not.
It's
What is
Homer
it?
Simpson and his moo-moo. Remember that episode
Yes,
where
when he gained too much weight.
Yeah, because he wanted to work from home. Yeah, he's in his little moo-moo.
Yeah, that happened to all of us during
COVID.
Yeah,
I lost weight during COVID.
I think I actually did too, but it's going to be funny to remember COVID.
Yeah.
Because the further we get apart, people reference it more and more.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a thing that happened. Well, obviously, it's a thing that happened in the past.
COVID.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because everybody had such different experiences for that time. And obviously, it's also different age groups that went through it. So I don't know how it's going to affect, younger people in the long term.
Yeah.
Like really young and then like the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds. I know for 40, I was great.
Yeah. We should do like an episode on how COVID changed relationships, like the COVID relationships.
We might have to try that.
Yeah, because what if you just started dating?
I actually started a relationship when it was great during COVID. I mean, it ended, so it wasn't all that great, but yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I remember back then it was like people were wanting to date, but it was that weird thing. We went through the lockdown. It was just like you want to go out and meet people, but like you can't.
Yeah. We did video dating.
Yeah.
That was not great, but
it's better than nothing, I guess.
I suppose. Yeah, we suppose. Yeah, it's just different. It's just different. So
for
I'm just
married couples that made it stronger.
I would venture to say I'm glad that I went through COVID in my 40s because I don't know if I could have done it in my 30s or 20s.
It was very emotional. So like for me being more emotionally immature, it helped probably. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Because like it sucked. I like to go out, but it's just like, I don't know.
And now we're pretty much at full swing at this point.
Yeah.
I think there's
back
very
in
little.
the saddle. Like, damn, I'm singing again. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay.
You're a singer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you didn't realize that until today, but you are a singer.
Yeah.
Yes. You missed your calling. We need to take you out to karaoke. That's what it is.
So today's topic, we're going to be talking about saying I love you for the first time.
Love.
Love. Let me ask you. Now, there's no real timeline on when it's appropriate. It's just, most research says just say it whenever you feel it.
But should there be?
Well, that's a good point. So I'm going to ask you, how long do you think, and I get it that every relationship is going to be different, but how long do you think is the appropriate time to wait before you say, I love you?
I don't think that there is an appropriate time. I think you can be a little too early to it. I will say that. I suppose you can be too late to say it too, maybe, I suppose. But I think you just kind of feel it at a certain point. But you have to be very careful when it comes to feelings, right? Because it could be that when you first start dating, and you get all the butterflies in your stomach, and it's like, it's an infatuation for sure. You can't think straight. Everything is, it's always a blue sky outside. There's rainbows outside. Like, it's just great. It's wonderful. Not sure that that's love, though.
Well, actually, that's what I have here. Like, how do you know it's not infatuation? Like, I'm going to say something really cynical, and I don't mean it this way, but like, it takes a long time for me to say I love you because I want to mean it. I want to be for sure. I'm not going to say it frivolously. Yeah. So like the people who say it too soon, in my experience, my dating experience, guys usually tell me about 3 weeks in, which is like,
really?
It's too soon. It's like that's not real love. Like you are infatuated and that's it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to dismiss your feelings. I'm not going to be like liar. I'm not going to say that, but it's like, that's not.
Yeah.
But then there's people like love at first sight and all that. I don't believe in that either, but
I think, I'm trying to think of, I can't recall, and this is for good reason. I can't recall exactly when it was that I said I loved you in most of my relationships, or the ones that I did say it, except for one. And she kind of asked, or she kind of told me
Told
So
you she loved you or
yeah,
you loved her?
yeah. She told me that she loved me, and then like it came out of the blue, and I just wasn't expecting it.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember, I think I said it back, and that was the first time because usually it's me saying it first.
Yeah.
So that's what threw me off. It wasn't that I wasn't in love. It was just like, oh, I thought I was the one that was supposed to do that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that feels weird. But I just, because traditionally for me, I'm usually the guy that does it first.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So whenever I do say it, I'm not saying that I reduce the significance because I know it's significant, but it also feels natural,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So it's, and again, I don't want to equate it to time, but enough time has passed where we're comfortable and I know her well enough, and maybe we shared some intimate, conversations with one another, and she was vulnerable, whatever. And I was the same with her, and we're still going strong. Like, despite that, we're still hanging out with one another.
Yeah.
And then you just say it, and don't get me wrong, at first it might be like, oh, and then they say it back. And then, of course you feel like, okay, great. We're on the same page.
I'm not saying I do this purposely, but like I feel like the first year, there's still so much that you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's like, okay, I have to wait a whole year, because I think you should say it when you really feel like it's true. But like, it takes me a really long time.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people that do say it too soon, like I said, it's either infatuation, you're just blurting out. Maybe it doesn't have the same meaning to you. Because when I say it, it's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Some people, it may not be. Some people like, I love you. Like they say that to every, like I said, 3 weeks is usually when I hear it.
They call people love.
I guess.
I've been called love a lot. Hey, love. Hey, love.
But yeah, I mean, so one thing that I thought was interesting, they did research on this, and it says that men feel more positive about a woman telling them they love them before sex, and women say they feel more comfortable after. And so I started thinking about like why that is. And so like I can speak for a woman. If a guy tells you he loves you before you're intimate, you may think, is he saying that to try to get me in bed?
Sure.
But if you've already been intimate and then like, you're dating for a while and he
Especially
says
right
it,
afterwards.
No, not right afterwards. But if you're dating for a while and he says it, it feels like, okay, it's more genuine because you already got the ultimate goal. So you're not trying to trick me. I don't know for the men part why men feel better if it's before.
So men feel better if the woman says I love you before they get physical?
Mm-hmm. Maybe for guys,
I'm having a hard
feels
time
like
with that one.
maybe they feel like she loves me for me rather than she's basing it on a sexual
But the thing about it is the reason why it's throwing me off a little bit because, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a lot of different types of relationships out there, but everything feels expedited nowadays. So I would say within like a month or two, typically people, if you've been seeing each other on an ongoing basis, by that point, you're probably already sleeping with one another.
Yeah.
Which would be a short time frame for her to tell me I love you. Now I don't know if I want to sleep with you because I'm like, wow, like, okay. But no, I say that jokingly, but for real, like I don't know.
But maybe that's what I'm saying. Maybe for a guy, they feel like we haven't been intimate yet. So she's not basing her feelings on the sexual part, and she really cares about me for me. Because let's say you're hanging out, you're doing fun things together. I don't know. I mean, I can understand from the woman's perspective. Yeah. You say I love you before, it's like you're trying to get me into bed. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying you feel like that a little bit. For the guys, I can
see where you make that of a connection. I don't know. I have to get back with you on that one because that one is not jiving with me at the moment. I can't. Because then that would imply like you've been dating for 6 months without any physical.
No, there's no time limit.
Yeah, I know, but that's
if
what
she
I'm saying.
says I love you after a month, which I'm sure has happened to you or men out there, you may not have had. I've
had them come close to saying it, but just didn't say it. Like they were really infatuated at the time, and they were like, "This is working out so great!" Like, and they just went on and listed all the things that we had in common. But again, it was just like a month or two, and I'm like, yeah, like get to know me a little bit more. I mean, eventually, I'm not saying I'm a bad guy, but I'm just saying like, once you're able to see me with not all that happy emotion.
That's what I'm saying. I don't mean to sound cynical, but how can that be real love after like a month? I just don't understand it.
It feels real. And, who's to say, right? But you're right. For me, and this is the reason why we say what we say, right? Because at least for me, there's many different definitions of love, and I love people differently. Like obviously, I'm gonna love my brothers and sisters different than the way I'm gonna love my two sons or a romantic partner. So by the time I say it, for me, I know enough about you that I still want to be with you, right? And you know enough about me and you've accepted me. And I genuinely want to make you happy despite all the things that I don't like about you. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I know that I don't like about you, but I still care for you and I want to see you happy. So by that time, that's love. And so the reason why you and I are like, how can you say within 1 month? Is because that's not enough time to figure those types of things out. If it's different, if you love somebody for the way they make you feel, that's a totally different thing. Because to that point, you're giving me butterflies in my stomach. You're giving me this goosebumpy feeling like I'm in euphoria every time I think about you. Then that's a feeling that you're making me feel, which is not necessarily, you know what I'm saying? It is, you could describe that as love, but it's going to fade at a certain point because you can't, that dopamine and
We'll call it
those
temporary love.
yeah, well, all those chemicals that are going on in your brain, the serotonin, the dopamines, the oxytocin, all that stuff, you can't stay at that level forever. Eventually, it's got to come down to a baseline. You can't just stay at that level. So once that comes down, and now you're seeing me for who I really am, flawed and all, like, okay, great. And then when you say it at that point, I'm like, okay.
That's what I'm saying. For me, it takes so long because it's like, I need to see all the bad stuff. And if I can still look at all the better things more often, you know what I mean? Accepting your flaws and blah, blah, blah. For me, that's like, okay, I do love this person. But that takes some time.
It takes a lot of time.
And two, you're not going to show your true colors in the first couple months. So it's like, how do you know? You don't even know that person.
That's what I'm saying. That's where for people like you and I, the way where we fall in the whole spectrum of love. It's not the goosebumpy feely things. It's like once you've gotten past that,
Yeah.
and you still want to be with this person,
Yeah.
then it's like I must love you because you're not making me feel all goosebumpy and stuff. Like you're a good person. I enjoy your company, and I genuinely like who you are as a person. And so, yeah, you're flawed just like the rest of us, but all in all, I think you're good. I think you treat me well. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I hate to break it down to them because I know love, you typically think of like flowers and all this other, which is part of it too, right? But long lasting love that has to be what gets you through because you're not always going to agree with one another, and you're not always going to see. You're just going to have a lot of disagreements and a lot of different points of view, and so.
Yeah. There's 3 stages of romantic love. So it kind of like goes into what we were talking about. The first one is lust, which is typically purely sexual.
Wonderful, wonderful phase,
Lust
by the
for
way.
love.
Oh, that love.
And then it goes into attraction.
Hold on, just a second before we go into attraction. Isn't it the best when you start out a relationship, you just can't keep your hands off one another? Isn't that the best? It's, oh my gosh, I can't even describe it. It's so, it's such a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Oh, anyways, all right, sorry.
So the second one is attraction. And attraction is more of excitement, seeing that person, and then you start to notice other things about them that are attractive. So maybe you find it attractive that they have this hobby that they're really passionate about. Or maybe you've seen them with their family and you like how they interact. So you start noticing these other things, right? Other than just their physical appearance. And then the last one is attachment. The attachment stage starts when you think about the commitment with them. When you start to ask yourself, long term, what does this look like? Can I see myself with this person? If you're answering yes, then you're in that like attachment phase. So yeah, the lust is cool and all, I get it. But for me, I like we're committed. Things are going good. We respect each other. You know, we kind of get to the groove of things and interactions with each other. That to me I enjoy that much more than just the dating around and the lustful part. Like, I don't,
No, I like them all too,
yeah,
but I just like to enjoy each phase as they come along. And when the lust part comes along, that's great. The attraction part, I know exactly what you're talking about. And
yeah,
that's fantastic too,
yeah,
because you're observing things that you ordinarily, like you're just kind of putting them in your mental notebook of
yeah,
like, oh, I like that too, and I like that too. So it just
mm-hmm,
solidified. And then the last one is the same thing, but
yeah,
I like the lust one too because that one's the fun part. That's where like things, it's all kinds of like you're not even thinking straight. The other ones you kind of are because now
yeah,
you're like, okay, I've gotten past that, so I'm got my eyes open.
mm-hmm,
I'm really looking, and you're gonna find things that you don't like during
mm-hmm.
that phase too, mind you. And then you might decide. See, that's the thing. Like, let's say the attraction part. I guess if they start doing more and more things that you don't like, I
Mm.
guess you could not fall in love with them. Is that the
It's
implication?
basically saying like maybe if there's too many things during the middle part that you don't like, then you're like, okay, this isn't going to work. Like, this isn't going to work long term. Or maybe you decide like, okay, this isn't for me. You kind of start thinking about breaking up at that point or whatever. If you haven't gotten to that, like, I can see myself living, marrying this person.
That's the last phase, though, right?
No,
Or
I know. What I'm
oh,
saying is in the middle part, if you're seeing all these red flags, whatever it is, deal breakers, you're like, no,
yeah,
that's where you're finding all that stuff out,
I
the things
got you.
that you don't like.
So here's and it's interesting that you brought this topic up because now it's ringing a bell on something that I had heard about when it comes to men. And men go through that middle part
Mm-hmm.
and they get stuck there for a lot longer.
Hmm.
And the problem is, or the challenge, I keep on saying problem as of course I have it, is that the other person, usually the female, right, in male and female relationship, they take it as you don't like me anymore.
Because you're not trying to progress.
Right. They're in that phase. They
Mm-hmm.
might have gotten through it quicker and made that assessment a lot quicker, and guys take a lot longer to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is sometimes women just don't want to they don't want to hang out there to see if you
Is
get
it
to
the
the other side or
commitment
not.
part that scares men? Or not scares, but like, why do you think they stay in that middle part for so
Well,
long?
because it's what you were talking about. You're seeing what you like and what you don't like about this
But
person.
why does it take so long for
Because
guys
you
to?
have to because this is going to be the most important part. This is the most if you really want us to do it long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is to say, do you want to go into your house, inspect it, look at every single room, nook and cranny, or do you just want to just walk straight in and out of it and say buy now?
Yeah.
That's it. You just got to buy now. So men, they want to check under the hood. They want to take a look at the tires. They want to look at all the cracks. What about this? What's going on here? Is this going to be a problem? I see that this is, whether it's a car or a place, whatever, they're going to examine it because the next stage, and we're not oblivious to this too, is that we're going to get married. So if we're going to be together and progress on, have children and all this, and you're going to be my future forever because I plan on being in this thing for a long time. So give me a minute to dig around just a little bit more. I'm not saying that I'm going to come out on the other side stronger or feeling stronger about it or feeling, like I don't want to progress this, but women want like hurry up and make a decision. Either tell me you're in it or you're not. And I'm like, wait a minute. Whoa, whoa.
It
Just
feels
give me a second.
biological the reason why women do that. You know what I'm saying?
It might be.
Because the biological clock for us, and even if you're older, let's say you already have kids, I feel like it's still like in your thought process of where is this going? I don't have a whole lot of time. I need to make a commitment. I don't know what it is, but it feels like it has like to do with our biological clock
Well,
about having kids and stuff.
it throws it off because, like I said, in that situation, you might have already, and it can happen the other way too. It could be a guy that says it prematurely or whatever, and then the woman is like, "Whoa, whoa, Buster, let me see what you got going on. Like, let me
Buster.
see, yeah, like let me figure this out." And so when those two things happen, while they're trying to process it and they're in that, the other person's already progressed, right? So if you guys are in a race, they've already crossed the finish line and you're halfway. You don't want to wait. And you feel like, well, they should be right here where I'm at because I'm here. So that means logically they need to be here too, right?
Mm.
They can't figure it out. And then they start looking for problems. It's like, well, you really don't like me? Like, what's the problem? Like, why have you distanced yourself or this? I said, like, no, I'm processing this because I know where this is going. And don't get me wrong, I guess everybody would have to have that conversation, eventually talk it out and be like, okay, because you can't stay in that zone forever too,
Right.
right? At some point, depending on the depending on the person, they do need to progress unless they're, you know, that could be a sign that they're indecisive.
I'm just like,
So that might be your deal breaker. Be like, you know what? I get it. Let's just end it. Like if you haven't figured it out and we've been dating for 3 years, maybe, you know, maybe it's just not going to work
my
out. Have a great
experiences with this
life.
is like, I'm the dude, like, because I'm telling you, guys say I love you so fast. And they usually, in my experience, they get mad at me because I don't say it fast
Yeah.
and then I won't say it for a long
Yeah.
time. And then it's a point of contention all the time.
Yep.
How come you haven't said you love me? How come you don't? And I'm like, let me do it on my own time. Let me say it for real. But like what you just said that you
It's like
guys
a
go,
bro. It's like talking to a bro right now.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you too. I get it, and it's not necessarily a male or female thing. I jest about that because obviously it happens to
Yeah.
both genders. But yeah, it happens when a guy says it too fast. You're like, slow down.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that I don't love you. I'm just saying give me some time to decide whether or not I really do like you. You know, because
Right.
there's a lot to you that I don't know. So how can I really love something if I don't know what it is, right? You just can't, right? So that's why I'm saying there's nothing wrong because even like buying a house and buying a car, I know I equate it to guys, but there's a lot of women that are very savvy too, and they want to know everything.
Right.
Like I want to know what's going on here, what's going on there, why does this look like that? There's a crack over here, you know. Like what about? They ask really important questions. How many? If it's buying a car, like how many miles do we get? What's the safety thing? Like you know what I mean? Like it's a salesman's worst, but at the same time, it should be great because if you answer all these questions correctly or to their satisfaction, let's say, then they're going to go full force. And from there on in, it's going to be, you know,
I'm
clear
not saying
sailing.
it freaks me out to the point where I would break up with you. I've never done that. But when guys say it too soon, or anybody, let's just say they say it too soon, it can freak you out a little bit because, okay, maybe not freaked out, but it's kind of like putting somebody on the spot and it makes me very uncomfortable because, like I said, you tell me after 3 weeks, I know you don't actually love me. So it makes it this awkward where you have to say thanks. Like,
That's your response?
no, I'm just saying, like, what do you say? You know, well, I think I wrote that down like in another section, but it's like you can say certain things afterwards, but some people do freak out and some people will break up with you.
Yeah, no, I get broken up a lot by that because
When you say I
again,
love you, they break up with you?
no, it's no, the opposite, you know, because again, they feel like I'm not completely committed because
So they
they've
say
already
I love
arrived.
you after 2 months and you're not ready yet. Then they break up with you because you say you're not ready?
Yeah, well, yeah, if I'm not ready to say it, typically, yeah, they're gonna be out.
Yeah.
They just do. They just get out.
Well, they don't break up with me, but like I said, it's always a problem. And I try to explain it.
It becomes a problem, and then they end up breaking up because they interpret that as, oh, he doesn't love me, and I'm worth more than that, and I shouldn't be with somebody that doesn't love me, blah blah. And all those things are true, but if your time frame, and again, I don't like to put time frames, but 3 months is very difficult. Like you couldn't even learn a new job in 3 months. It would take you a little bit longer. You know what I mean? And that's you working 40 hours a week before you got a good grasp on things at a new job. So it's not unreasonable to say that you wouldn't be able to formulate that opinion or that feeling with somebody within 3 months. Again, I know everybody's different. Maybe they can do it in 3 months. How much can you learn from somebody in 3 months unless the other person is just a complete open book and just willing to tell you every single thing that they've ever done? Like,
Yeah.
great, wonderful.
Well, I mean, with the 3 stages too, there may be ones that you prefer, but I think that if you are constantly only staying in the lust stage, and then as soon as that's gone, you go to the next one, the next one, next one, there's something deep rooted, I think, about that. There's a reason why, whether you don't want to get close to somebody, something happened to you in your past or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not saying all of our goals should be to partner up with someone, but we as humans want companionship. And if you don't ever want to connect with anybody and you're just staying in that lust phase, I feel like the majority of those people at a point it's going to become old. And you're going to be like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, but you got to understand, like, yeah, it does get old. Obviously, like, yeah, I don't recommend it. It's a great phase if it leads to something. It's phenomenal, actually. But it's very addictive, because you got a lot of things going on in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see where that goes. But the other part is too, is that let's say you go the traditional route and you do say, you've been with somebody for an extended period of time, a year, 2 years. You say, I love you. You do all that. And then they end up breaking up with you. And so at some point, they fell out of love with you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know when that happened. So now you're stuck in a situation where you love this person and they don't love you back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to avoid that. They're just, and that's why they rush into it. It's like, let's get past all that real quick. Tell me that you love me and then we'll take it from there. It's like, no, doesn't work that. Or they go too fast knowing that the other person hasn't came to that conclusion and that's their out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, because what if he does end up loving me? Is he going to love me forever? Or is she going to love me forever? Or is she eventually going to fall out of love like the other girl did? And then I was stuck in this painful feeling that I had because I fell in love with her.
Yeah.
She said it first. She made me fall in love with her. She made me say it. You know what I mean? Like I felt pressure and I did, but it wasn't the timeline that I wanted. And then she breaks up with me and it's like,
yeah,
you brought us there. You got us to the point where we're saying, I love you, again, a little bit faster than I wanted to, but, and I was okay with it after I said it. And then you were the one that broke up with me. So what happened? You know what I'm saying? So you put yourself in that vulnerable spot. It's no wonder that people like to stay in the lust phase because that's the safest space in the world. Once that wears off, you go find another one to find lustfulness with. You know what I mean?
Probably not going to get your feelings hurt.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I can understand why people gravitate that. But yes, if you're the type of person that you require more substance, there's no getting around it. You're at some point going to have to be vulnerable again. And if you really, really, truly want to find love, at least the way I understand it anyways, you got to be willing to roll the dice, which is you got to go all in and know that guess what? You could get hurt.
Yeah.
That is a big possibility. But you could also find somebody that you fall passionately in love with for years and it's sustainable. And like until the day you die, you're with this person and you love every second of it, good and bad, all of it, like nothing but good memories. So it's a risk.
Yeah. What do you feel about like people who, like I'm going to ask you, not how long would you give them, but do you think that you would eventually have to break up with someone if they never said, I love you? Let's say that you're dating a woman for 2 years. She's never said it, never insinuated. I mean, she tells you positive things, but do you need her to say that to continue on? Let's say you wanted to get married again. Would you propose to someone who you were deeply in love with, but she just never said it? Or would you have to end the relationship? Because I feel like the majority of women, after a certain amount of time, I'm talking about like years, most women be like, you can't even really fully commit because they take that saying, I love you as not the ultimate commitment, but like, you know what I mean? The strongest thing you can say to a person. So like, if you never say it, how could you not feel like, okay, I've been with you for 3 years and you haven't said it?
Yeah. So it depends. It depends because if they're unwilling to say that word, there's something going on with that word and that person. That to me would end I don't know that I would break up with them, but they have something they need to do some work.
Yeah.
They need to do some serious work. If my trigger was love, I would have a hard time navigating the world. I would have a really hard time navigating the world because that is such a powerful word. And if I'm not able to say it, it's a mental block for me.
Yeah.
Nothing happens to me if I say it. I don't burst into flames. So you know what I'm saying? Like I can understand a genuine fear of like it might kill me, but this is not that. This is a mental block that you have. And my only question with that would be, how many other mental blocks do you have?
Yeah.
In other words, do I get all of you or is it always going to be an edited version of you? In which case I can still decide to go with the edited version, but let me know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Am I getting the edited version of you or the full version of you? And are you not capable of sharing the full version of you to anybody? Like, again, I can make that decision. I can be like, yeah, you know what? I'm good.
I feel like based on the person, if I really care about you and we have a strong bond, I might be able to look past that. And it made me think of, we talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about Ghost, right?
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze not wanting to say I love you. I don't know if they went to the backstory why he doesn't like to say it, him saying ditto, but.
Because it was cooler to say ditto. That's why.
Okay.
Anyway.
But I'm just saying that like in that relationship, yeah, it bothered her, but it didn't negate from the bond that they had. So it's like, I love you, and okay, you don't want to say it, you have some get up about it, but if you show me you love me like he did with her, and it's like there's no doubt.
He replaced the word. So that was slightly different. Because if I say I love you to somebody,
she said to her, that doesn't mean I love you. If you
no, I
feel
get
it,
that.
then you say it.
I get that. But the ditto was the equivalent, at least to Patrick.
Yeah,
and
but I could say I care about you, and that means I love you to me.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's slightly different. If I say I love you and you say thanks every single time, even 5 years into our relationship, you know what I mean? That's different.
Can you imagine being married to someone? I love you, hun. Thanks. Thanks, husband. I'm legally bound to you. Thank you.
Whom I have to love.
She gives you a high five instead.
But that's different because, again, it's the word.
Yeah.
Right. So they're dealing with that word for one reason or the other. Right. But the sentiment is still the same. You can call it whatever you want to. It doesn't necessarily have. But that's what I'm saying. You have some work to do. Now, if they say, no, you get the full version, I'm just dealing with that word. That word is just supercharged for me. And I totally get that. It's like, okay. He's like, but everything that word means is how I feel about you. And I give you an alternate word for it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because every relationship is slightly different. And that one I would be okay because I'd be like, I get it. Like that's, and she got it too, right? So when he passed away, that's how she knew because that was just between them two. And that's how she knew that it was actually him when Whoopi was talking because it's like nobody else knows that. But him. Whoopi, yeah.
I love Whoopi Goldberg.
I love a lot of my Whoopi.
I love the Sister Act movies. Those are my favorite Whoopi movies.
And I don't watch those. I don't know why.
Really?
I haven't seen a single.
Oh my God, dude. They're so good.
I'm sure they are. But I like Maggie Smith too, so I should watch it.
You got to go home today and at least watch the first one. But there's also different reasons why people may find it hard to say. It's kind of what we were talking about. But saying I love you is a very vulnerable position for the first time, right? Because you don't know what the other person's going to say. They could say thanks. They could say I love you too. The anxiety around that, or if you're insecure about certain things, it may stop you from saying it.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of reasons why maybe people don't say it when they feel it. You know what I mean?
You know, yeah. I mean, it reminded me of another movie. And again, I live in movies, so this one was called AI. I don't know if you ever seen Artificial Intelligence.
I did.
Okay. It's with Haley Joel Osment. So in the very beginning of the movie, they have this philosophical, because for people that have never seen the movie, they make a little boy, a robot boy. And in the movie, the concept is they teach that robot to love. So in this case, the parents, right? Because it's in the future and you need like a license to have kids because the water rose too much and the land got scarce. So the people that were left behind said, we can't go crazy populating the
no
world.
More.
So anyways, so the thing is that they made this robot to love the parents. But the question came up, the ethical question is, does the parent have a responsibility to love that robot back? And I think that's the fundamental question that you're asking is it's like, okay, somebody just said, I love you to me. And I understand everything that implies. Now, do I have a responsibility because we're technically there to say it back, right? That's the conundrum. Or do I need to be honest and say, I need a little time to decide whether or not I feel the same way about you at this moment. And that's the tough part. When you get put in that situation and somebody says it to you, let's say you weren't ready for it, but maybe you do feel it, or maybe you were getting there. Let's say you were really getting there, and now they've said it. It's like it speeds up the timeline, and so now you feel like a responsibility. Well, like you love me, so I should love you back.
I feel like I hate to say this, but I feel like I've been forced to say it to men a lot that I didn't want to.
That's a horrible feeling.
I don't know why guys do that, or let me say people in general. If you say I love you and I don't say it or whatever, or I don't feel it yet, and in my experience, you'd be in like a situation where it's kind of a vulnerable situation and they say, tell me you love me. And I'm like, you see, I'm squirming. Like, why are you still? And they're like, tell me you love me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, bro. Like, I hate that feeling. I just don't understand. Did they not understand that they are forcing this? It's not genuine.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I'm giving you all the cues.
To them, I'm not saying that it's not genuine. That's what I'm saying. If they went through the three stages.
No, but making me say it.
Yeah.
What's the benefit?
Well, to force you to say it, I don't know. What this is, well, I do know why they're doing it, right?
Okay.
Because again, what they're trying to do in a very expedited way is like, are we doing this or not? Are you in it or you're not in it? And that's more impatience on their part. So they don't see it as them forcing you. They're saying, I feel this way, so I'm pretty sure you feel this way. You just need to hurry up and say it so that we can progress forward in where we're at. We're not on the same page, obviously. And that's the part that they don't get. And they feel like, well, if you don't say it back, then that's my open door to get the heck out of this relationship. And they don't give you enough time to decide on your own whether or not you love them. That's the whole point.
That feels like an insecurity to me, though.
It's absolutely an insecurity.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, but it's very obvious in these interactions that even if I tell you, it's like, I'm not ready yet, and you're still trying to force it in that same conversation.
Right.
I don't understand the benefit of, I would never force someone to tell me you love me.
So if the shoe was on the other foot, right? And let's say, you with somebody for 5 years, and then you finally say it.
Okay. It's a long time.
It is. And you finally,
on
like,
your
it's
wedding
never,
day.
you're not even married yet. You're still dating. So 5 years and you're like, so-and-so, I love you. And they're like, thanks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're five years into it. So your timeline is different. So you're like, maybe his timeline, it takes him 10 years. Like, you don't know. But the point being is that at that point, you have a decision to make, because now the shoe's on the other foot. Like, okay, I've already came to this conclusion. It took me a long time. Maybe it takes you longer, but you're not going to be thinking in that term. You're going to be like, hey, dude, we've been together for 5 years. Like, do you or do you not love me? I don't understand. You would feel a certain kind of way about that too. I get what you're saying, but you have to put your shoe on the other foot. They just arrived at that conclusion a lot faster. I'm
not saying I wouldn't feel maybe some type of way after 5 years, but again, these are like a month, 2 months in, and I can't imagine myself ever forcing somebody to say it to me.
Well, and the thing about it is, right, because think about it. So you're the person that said it first, right? 5 years into it. Now I'm using extremes, but just so that you understand it. But I need you to understand it, because that would be something that you might do, right? So now you're doing that, right? And again, it could be 3 months, it could be 2 months, doesn't matter. 5 years, it's the same thing. You say that to that person and they don't say it back. Immediately your mind goes to, they don't love me, not the way I love them.
Right.
Now you got a decision. Should I stay or should I go? Because I'm here and they're not. So do I wait for them to catch up, or do I just move on to another train? On their side, they now have to think about it too, because they didn't say it back. So if they would have said it immediately back without even thinking about it, great, we're on the same. We just haven't said it. It was an elephant in the room.
Like, I was waiting for you to say it.
It's finally out and we're both on the same page. We arrived. Obviously, we've been together for 5 years, right? So sure, I fucking love you. Like, sorry.
It's okay.
But anyways, but now if he didn't say it back, now he's got to think about it. Do I really love her? You know what I mean? And maybe he just hadn't put a lot of thought into it, right? And maybe he starts thinking, you know what? Maybe I don't.
Yeah.
Like, or maybe he does. I don't know. But now you put it out there, like once you put it out there like that, now
take backsies.
Nope. Now you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Now you got to confront it and be like, okay, let's have this conversation. If you haven't already, right? And depending on what your end goal is, if the end goal is that we eventually get married and die together. That's really what marriage is, really. You're trying to find your partner that you want to die with. It's like, this is the guy or this is the girl that I want to eventually die with. But But the point is still the same. It opens up questions. And when you're both on the same page, great. It works out, like keep going forward or whatever. The problem with rushing it, right, in your situation is that you were still stuck in the second part. And you said it just to appease them, thinking, well, I eventually will get there, right? But I'm still working some stuff out. You're going to act differently. That's why they keep on insisting it, because now you've already said it. So they're like, okay, you need to continue to say it because you mean it, right? And it causes more problems because now you're saying it and there's maybe not as much feeling as it should be.
Right.
Now it's just a word that I'm saying.
Because I'm not being genuine. I'm not saying it because I want to tell you these things. It's
right.
like,
I'm doing it to appease you.
yeah.
And that never works out for anybody.
It's such a weird thing, but
isn't it though?
There are different ways to not turn them down. But if your partner does tell you I love you, and let's say it is kind of soon, or you could say these things when you start to get that kind of feeling. You can say things like, I feel like I could fall for you. You know what I mean? The positive things that you can say to make your partner know it's like, okay, I'm not saying I love you yet,
right,
but let me tell you how I'm feeling. Yeah. Or you can say like, I really do see a future for you and I.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if they say I love you and you're kind of on the spot, you'd be like, I really care about you and I have no doubt in my mind I want to be with you.
Right.
I'm not ready to say that just yet, but let me explain to you how I feel about you. Right. Just a gentler way rather than just being like, I gotta go. I don't know, whatever. Trying to get out of there.
I'll let you know.
Thanks and see ya. Yeah. And then I never call you again.
Do the finger guns.
Yeah. But there's ways to kind of, I mean, it's still going to hurt a little bit.
It's going to hurt regardless.
That's what I'm saying. But there are some ways that you can kind of, or like I said, if maybe both of you haven't said it yet, again, if you're feeling strong feelings and you don't want to say it just yet, but you're kind of not testing the waters, but it's like, I want to reassure them how I'm feeling. You can say like, I can see myself falling for you, or I feel like I'm falling for you.
Sure.
So
it's tough. It's so.
If a guy said to me like, I feel like I'm falling for you 3 months in, I don't think that would freak me out as much as you may be saying. Maybe 3 months is a little bit longer, but let's say 3 weeks. You're like, I could see myself with you.
I love that. So when I'm in a relationship, as a relationship progresses, I'll usually let them know where I'm at.
Yeah.
And just to make sure we're on the same page.
Right.
Because again, let's say I'm feeling really good about it, I'm falling for you, and let's say I get the tone from her voice is not the same. I might be like, oh, okay, maybe I need to slow down a little bit, or maybe I need to rethink this before I push the accelerator on this and go too far. She might not be where I'm
you're
at.
Kind of testing the waters a little bit.
So you kind of let them know. Women tend to do that with me a lot more. They'll tell me like, yeah, we're getting along and this is great and this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, it is. And then usually, if there's certain things about me that they don't like or whatever, they'll bring that up too. But yeah, there's nothing worse than trying to get hurried to make a decision like that, especially when it really is an important decision.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of marriage the way I do anyways, which is for life, well, a few exceptions aside, right? There's a few deal breakers in there, but it's basically for life.
Yeah.
You would want to take your time to make that decision, right?
Right.
It's not like an ice cream flavor that you can just throw away if you don't like it.
If marriage is the ultimate goal of a relationship, saying I love you is the most important thing of just the dating part. Like it can't get any higher than confessing your love to somebody.
Right.
So it's like, it is a big deal. I think there are tons of people who just say it. It doesn't mean the same. They just say it to everybody. They don't really think about it. They say it when they're infatuated. And then over time, maybe it starts not to mean too much to you. If you were with every girl that you were with, let's say you're dating for 3 weeks and they tell you, I love you. After a while, even though you're not the one saying it, you're going to start to think like all these women don't really, I'm not saying not value love, but like they're, the way they think about love is not really love.
It might be warped. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They might be stuck in number one.
Yeah.
And because
but
they're
stuck in one. It may change your train of thought. You know what I'm saying? Not that you don't know what love is, but like it would feel like maybe if they said it too fast, maybe when one guy says it, and let's say it's legit, I may not believe you because I've already been through all these guys that just say it frivolously. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it kind of warps even the way you think of
love. Yeah, it does, because the way I interpret love, or the way for me, when I know that I'm in love with somebody, is when I genuinely want to make them happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's my gauge, right? It's like I want to make you happy. I want to make you smile. I want to do whatever I can. And obviously, you can't make them happy all the time. You're not a
Right.
clown, right? You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have good days. But you genuinely don't want to hurt that person. You want them to do well and be good, which is, oof, this is another sometimes charge because when you love somebody that doesn't love themselves, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard because you can see that they do things to sabotage themselves, and you can tell the way they talk to themselves. It's just not, they don't love themselves. Like you can clearly see, like they care more about you than they do their own self, which can be somewhat romantic, but not at the expense of you. You know what I mean? Like, let's say that she cooks me a healthy meal, but she decides that she wants to eat fast food all the time. Like that's not healthy for you. Like you're looking out for me and yet you're not taking care of yourself. Something's not right. Like, you know what I mean? Like I appreciate, I know you love me, and the reason why that's hard is because you love them and you want to genuinely see them happy, but you know that they're hurting themselves.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be physical, but it could just, like, emotionally they hurt themselves. That's tough.
I do want to make that person happy, but for me, the love gauge is more of like when I put them first because I want to.
Yeah.
If I put your needs over me because I genuinely want to, that's a stronger feeling for me, is like, okay, I do love this person because I would rather you have and me without.
Yeah.
And I think when you switch that, because we're all selfish a little bit, and especially if you're single, like there's nothing, be selfish. You're single, like who cares?
Dang right.
But, or even like when you're
Honestly, no ring on his finger.
You did the Beyonce thing.
Honestly, no ring. This left hand, right?
Yeah. But they say that there's a few times that you shouldn't say it. And one of them we talked about is saying it too soon. If it's like third date, I mean, come on now. Like, don't.
Yeah.
Another one is over text message. Don't say I love you for the first time over a text message, because it's not going to be the same. And then when you're intoxicated or after sex.
That's the best time. Both of those are the best
It's
times.
not genuine.
But at that moment, it's lust, obviously. But
that's what I'm saying.
God,
like, I'm being serious.
No, I am too. Like there's a chemical thing that goes on. Like you are at, and I don't want to get too graphic, but right afterwards, for a guy, everything is perfect.
But it's not the real thing, though. You are on this high of that feeling, or when you're intoxicated, but it's not being sober and looking at your woman and being like, I love you.
I know.
I'm just telling you this. You shouldn't say it for the first time.
Well, this is what I would say, right? Obviously, for a guy wouldn't have a problem if after they just had sex and a woman, said I love you right after. He would have no problem whatsoever with
after a week.
No. After that's
what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying, like, let's say you've been together for extended period of time, whatever that time is.
Okay.
And then right after you just had sex, and then she says it's fine. Like a guy might say it might be the first time.
I'm not saying a woman would hate it. I'm just saying that if you're going to say it for the first time, you should probably be a little bit more loving, be in a loving scenario rather than you saying it when you're drunk, whatever in those scenarios.
I'm just saying because like when after you have sex, it's also men and women look at sex slightly different too. Mm-hmm. So where they just look at it different. So that's the reason why we're doing it, because we're not trying to be jerks about it, but you are feeling emotional at that time. You're feeling very good about everything. And if you've been with this person, I know it's probably not the best time to say it for the first time. I know.
Wait till the next morning. Why can't you just wait till the next morning?
I get it. But I'm just saying, sometimes it's very powerful. You know how when you get emotion, you get excited. Sometimes, let's say if you're excited, you can't hold it in. Like you just, you gotta let it out. Some people can't do surprises. Like there's some people that just don't make them part of a surprise party because they don't know how to, they just can't. It overwhelms them and they just have to,
I don't think it's a good idea. But based on a poll in 2022, men do say it sooner than women. It's actually about a 3-to-1 ratio. I have never once said I love you before the guy said it to me. I'm sure it's happened, but in my experience,
what is the stats on it again?
3-to-1.
3-to-1. Okay.
I'm
Right.
just saying it's never happened for me. I've never felt that I was in love with someone immediately or really quickly. And I've also never said it. It's always the guy says it first. To your
Mm.
point earlier of like, when the girl said it first, it threw you off because you're like, this is my job. I'm supposed to say
Yeah.
I love you
Yeah.
first.
Maybe that's what it was.
And
Yeah.
they said too that biologically, and you're going to love this, women don't say it first because we are biologically more picky in our selection. You and I have talked about this before. The women, we are the ones that select the guy.
Yeah.
So because we are in charge of that selection process, that's why we say it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, so I can, if that were the case, right, and the scenario that I described with my ex was reversed, right, and it was a guy that got to that conclusion and said, you know, I love you before the girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
I I can see that. So I can see that he came to that conclusion and she might be stuck in number two, whereas he's already gotten to the end point. It's like, this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life, whatever. And she's still thinking about it. I can see him saying it to try to tip the scales in his favor. You know what I mean? Because he's going to feel like she's distancing herself from him.
Yeah.
And she might, only because she wants to take a good view. You know what I mean? Like she wants to take a panoramic. She wants to step back a second and assess.
So he's like trying to bring her in if he feels like she may
Well,
be.
that's what I'm saying. When it happened to me, I was stuck in number two, so trying to figure out. They sensed it.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, I love you. So now I'm like, oh, like I don't want to lose her. But I haven't gotten to that part yet. But now I'm like, it forced me to say it faster.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, love you back. But the problem with that strategy is that you're still stuck in number two.
Yeah.
You just made me say it sooner. So I'm still going to behave the way I'm behaving, which is stepping back and still assessing stuff. And that's when they get upset because then they're like, oh, you really don't love me. You shouldn't have said it, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, now we've got a problem. You see what I'm saying? So you're right. So in those situations, I can see where things start to fall apart because again, they might say it just because they're like, I better hurry up and say it because I feel like I'm losing her and I don't want to lose her. So let me just go ahead and then next thing you know.
Yeah, I've definitely said it because I've been put on the spot. I didn't say it because I felt like I was going to lose them. It was just that being put on the spot. But I mean, like, honestly, if people were just, I'm not saying it's going to feel great, but being honest about if you're not ready, to me, feels like the best practice.
Yeah.
I know it hurts, but like, to your point, the alternative is you're still in number two. It's almost like for them, it's like she said, you're just like, you basically lied to me. You said you love me. You don't really love me. You're not really fully committed.
Right.
It's just, like I said, I would never force anyone to say it. If you don't want to say it, I'm not going to force you to say it because I don't want to be in that spot.
You don't want to be the bad guy for something that you didn't do, right? You didn't do anything wrong. No, I get it. I think a better approach would be to just check in with one another. And I think that's good in general. Like if you're married, you have to ask about some of the most mundane stuff. You have to. It has to be part of it. Like you have to prioritize, like, tell me about your day. That has nothing to do with us, just you. What did you do?
Yeah.
How did everything go? Tell me about work. Tell me, like, I need to do that.
Yeah.
And you need to do it for your partner too. You need that. Obviously, even with the intimacy part, you have to make time. You can't say like, oh, the kids and this, that. I get it. Even if you put it in there for 30 minutes and even if you guys don't like it, it needs to be part of it.
Yeah.
Because again, physical touch, even if that's not your love language, eventually you don't touch somebody for a long period of time. You just get used to not touching them. Yeah. And that could be detrimental because then you become intimate and it's going to feel weird.
Yeah.
Because you're like, we haven't even hugged in like a month.
Then it's more of like the act. It's not of, because what love making is supposed to be is that.
Right.
It's the ultimate way to.
Right. It's everything else, right? It's the having those conversations, the day to day. I know you that way. I know you're intimate. I know what's going on in your head. I know what's frustrating you. Now we're having sex. We're solidifying all of those things I want to be a part of. I might not be able to help you with all of it.
Yeah.
And I might not have answers, but I'm here. I'm right here for you if you need me for anything as a supporting role. And the sex has to be in there because if you don't, I'm telling you, things start going south really, really fast. But that's what I'm saying. I think a better approach rather than, because you can say I love you all you want. That's fine. It's at the end of the day, it's just a word. But you should really check in with people and say like, hey, where are you at?
Yeah.
You feel like, are we doing good? Should we be going out? I feel you getting a little distant. And if your partner's like, yeah, I'm going through stuff from work or something else, like you don't know, right? Whatever that is, like, hey, just remind you I'm still here. If you need me for anything, I got you, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that's good enough, right? Because maybe they are dealing, they need a space. And we've did this before, like if it's something that we just don't want to discuss, you can tell usually pretty fast for me, like you got something going on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just not ready to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, however much time goes by, and then all of a sudden we talk about it. And it's like, all right, got it out there and it's done. But you have to, right? So to your point, it's not good to force your partner into doing anything.
Yeah.
Whether having them talk about their feelings, saying I love you, or just pushing them to talk about something that they're just not ready to talk about.
Yeah.
You got to give them that time. You got to give them that space. Now, again, if you're on a different timeline, and you feel like I need to hear those words and I need to hear them within this amount of time or else I'm out, go with God, because it's not always going to be, you're not always going to be on the same timeline with your partner.
It kind of feels like the same way I feel about ultimatums, about marriage and stuff. I've told you how I felt about this. Like,
you're for them right now.
I am not comfortable doing that, because if I ever do get married, I want it to be because they want to. I don't want it to be a situation where, but women do it. I'm sorry, women, but you guys do it a lot.
Yeah.
And I get it. I've been in long-term relationships. I totally understand the why, but it's like, it's a psychological thing for me. It's like in the back of my mind, I always know you're here only because I said either let's do this or I'm out.
Yeah.
Same thing with saying I love you. It's like, yeah, I'm sure everybody reaches their point. Everybody wants to hear it eventually. But like, if I and like been told to me, if you don't say I love you, like how can I move forward? It's like, it's not going to be genuine.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, man.
It's a hard spot.
You shouldn't pressure anybody or give ultimatums. Are the worst. Ultimatums are absolutely the worst, because it's like them holding you hostage. And why would you want your partner to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to be my partner and help me out and be supportive and now you're putting me in a situation where either I say it or I lose you.
Yeah.
And like, okay, like, and don't get me wrong, sometimes again, I'm not big on ultimatums, but I am big about you telling your partner what's going on with you.
Yeah. I 100%
because
agree.
that's a different story. It's like, look, I know that you are where you are and you're still thinking about it. Let me just kind of let you know where I'm at.
Right. You can definitely voice your opinion of like, I know you're not ready yet, but this is how I feel. And let me tell you how you not saying it makes me feel. It's not a pressure. It's just, we're just talking about our feelings.
Right.
But I feel terrible when people have said to me, like, why don't you love me yet? It feels so, it's like, they're taking it so personal. It's like, it's not about you.
Well, I mean, it is a valid question because
I know, but like, I mean, if it's been a few months, why are you asking me that? It's so soon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It goes back to that question in the movie. It's like, okay, we program them to love you. Do you have a responsibility? So just because somebody loves you, does that obligate you to love them back? Do you have a responsibility to love them back? And I don't know. I think you have a responsibility to be honest. I do believe that. And hopefully you can find a good solution where you guys end up together. But the thing about honesty is that it might not work out. And you always have to remember that it might not work out. So it depends on what your threshold is, what your timeline is. If you have a timeline, most guys typically don't. Most guys, they just don't. But I do know that when they do finally come to the decision, if it's a hardcore, like I'm going forward with it, they usually go forward with it, and that's when they buy the ring and all this other stuff. And they get nervous because it's important. It's a big, I think it goes, I know we take it for granted that there's so many divorces and like 50% of couples get divorced.
I think it's higher than that actually now.
Probably, and there's so many of them, but trust me when I tell you, it is no fun at all. I mean, it is one of the toughest things to do. And for people that do it 2 or 3 times, I don't even know how they do that, to be honest with you. I had one and
Maybe
it was...
they get desensitized after a while.
I mean, I guess, but you know what I mean? I personally don't think it's something that people should take lightly.
We should do an episode on divorces.
Really?
Yeah, why not? If
Because
more than half of the couples, let's say, that are listening right now,
are divorced?
yeah,
Technically, we could. Yeah,
you can reach a lot of people with
all
divorce.
right. I trust me. I've been through it. It's not fun at all. Like we
Yeah.
can.
But yeah, so we're
It's a
just.
bummer.
I
We're gonna
know. I don't want to
off on a
leave on that note.
bummer. The LOVE. At least they have a lot of songs about love. That's a good thing. Like
Yeah, love is amazing.
love is fantastic.
It's the most powerful force on earth.
All of it. I love it. I mean, all in all, it's a good thing.
Love.
I do love. But I think, again, checking in with one another is always beneficial. And even if you are feeling that, because it's such a supercharged word and it should have some meaning behind it. It shouldn't just be a casual word that you throw out there. I think if you check in with one another, that's a better idea. And then you'll gauge when it's a good time to say it. You really will.
And you'll have that moment where you say it and the other person immediately says it back and they're so happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens a lot.
And I'll just say this much too. I'll just say in regards to the stats that you were saying, that 1 in 3, right? Women do it versus the 2 and 3 guys, right? It's also hard because guys are we get rejected a lot more. So when you get like anything else, even if it's a trauma, which being rejected is traumatic, at a certain point, you just have to learn how to deal with it because you go through it so much. And maybe, I'm not saying you never really get desensitized with rejection, but you do learn how to deal with it. Every man has to learn how to deal with the rejection in their own way. I'm not sure because it is such a vulnerable, maybe that's the reason why women usually don't say it first, is because you're taking a chance. So think about marriage. You buy the ring, you didn't have that. Let's just say you didn't actually have the conversation. Yeah, you might have had a conversation about, I do plan on getting married at some point, or maybe you're in a relationship where like you guys decide to get married together without the whole getting down on one knee.
Yeah.
But let's say you went down that road, you don't know. She could say no. She could say no. And if you're doing it in a public, you know what I'm saying?
Don't do it.
He has to be and that's why I'm saying that's why it's such a hard thing, because when that dude goes forward with that, and I don't think people appreciate it so much, right? Because not everybody can do that. That's why, again, if a woman were to do that and get down on one knee and ask a guy to marry and the guy said no, I don't even know psychologically what that would do to that person. You know what I mean? Like it would be hard. But for a guy, we know as soon as we get down on one knee and we ask, we know that there is a possibility that she is going to say no. There's always that possibility. So guys run the numbers, so it doesn't surprise me that they will put themselves out there, so to speak, because you kind of have to.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it. And, if you get rejected, then so be it. You move on. But LOVE. Well, I love this conversation.
I love it too.
It was
We're in
great.
sync. Yay.
But good conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Till next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.